Dumb Husky and his white cat Shizun. Chapter 197. Shizun is not a vixen. Because of what Mo Ran said yesterday, Chu Wanning felt extremely ashamed. After leaving the Meowan Springs, he didn't want to talk to Mo Ran anymore, so he left without looking back. People need face just how trees need bark. He was furious. How could Mo Ran have the face to say such shameful words? Did Mo Ran think that he would just verbally agree? This kind of thing, he should just do it. Why did he have to ask him? The next day, the elder that was handling the classics and history lesson fell ill. Xue Zhenyang asked Chu Wanning to cover the class and supervise the recitation of the students. Classics and history was a big class. There were so many students attending it. He couldn't manage all of them by himself, so he let Mo Ran and his other disciples assist him in supervising the students and answering questions. Among the four of them, Shi Mei and Mo Ran were the busiest. The reason was very simple: Shi Mei was gentle and handsome, while Mo Ran was kind and heroic. Both of them were very popular with the junior disciples, especially Shi Mei. He had long legs, a narrow waist and picturesque features. Having completely shed away the immaturity of his youth, he was a completely elegant and handsome man. He had a good temper and a pleasant voice, so it was easy for both men and women to have a good impression of him. As for Mo Ran, he was trapped in the group of female disciples and couldn't get out. Mo Shikshan, I don't understand this sentence, can you help me with it? Mo Shikshan, I don't really understand the difference between these two incantations, can Shikshan teach me? Mo Shikshan. After Mo Ran finished explaining to the ninth smiling Shi Mei why the myriad waves incantation had to look exactly the same as the incantation drawn by the creator in order to be effective, Chu Wanning finally couldn't take it anymore. He frowned, and coldly glanced at Mo Ran from a few rows of disciples. Mo Ran had been ignored since yesterday, so he felt a bit wronged. He was used to being rough in his previous life, so in this life, he cherished it even more. Therefore, every step he took, he wanted to see if Chu Wanning was happy. He didn't know what he had done wrong yesterday. Could it be that he shouldn't have asked that question? Or perhaps he had addressed him incorrectly. Maybe, he shouldn't have asked, "My good Shizun, can you please let me fuck you for real?" Instead, he should have asked, "My dear darling, can you please let me fuck you for real?" After being treated coldly for no reason the entire day, Mo Ran suddenly felt Chu Wanning's gaze. Even though Chu Wanning was glaring at him fiercely, Mo Ran was still like a little cabbage that had been showered with water. He immediately became spirited and smiled brightly at Chu Wanning. This person didn't understand where all these women came from and why they had so many questions. What was it that they did not understand anyways? If there was something that they really didn't understand, why didn't they ask Chu Wanning, the creator of the myriad waves incantation, who was standing right here? Why did they take a roundabout way to call Mo Shikshan? Chu Wanning was displeased, but he didn't say anything. He only looked coldly and silently at Mo Ran. As he stared, Mo Ran felt that something was wrong. Coincidentally, there was a 10th junior sister waving at him eagerly. Mo Shijet. Sorry, I have something to do. Mo Ran smiled and pointed at Xue Meng. Ask your Xue Shikshan if you have more question. After he finished speaking, he walked over to Chu Wanning, leaving behind the Shi Mei whose hair was tied into a bun. She had a disappointed expression on her face. She bit the end of her calligraphy brush and let out a long sigh. Shizun, what's wrong? You don't seem very happy. Chu Wanning pursed his lips. He couldn't answer directly. After a moment of silence, he said, I'm a bit tired. Let Xue Meng handle that circle. You help me in this area. Mo Ran didn't doubt him. He nodded and dutifully followed Chu Wanning around the area. It was strange. As he walked next to Chu Wanning, he suddenly felt that the number of people asking questions had suddenly decreased. Could it be that the disciples in this area were smarter than those in that area? Chu Wanning's mood improved a bit when he didn't hear any more annoying Mo Shixian or the even more annoying Mo Shijet. However, his face was still expressionless as he paced back and forth among the junior disciples who were reciting the scriptures. As he walked, he suddenly heard a conversation between two junior disciples. Shij, let me tell you, there's a fox spirit in the Meowan Springs. Ah? What do you mean? Yesterday, after I finished bathing at the Plum Blossom Pool and was preparing to go back, I heard faint sound of, that kind of activity in the distance. The senior brother seemed very surprised. He opened his mouth for a moment and hesitated. Could it be that a pair of fellow disciples were that daring? Who would be so daring? That's impossible. This kind of thing has to be done in private. If they were caught by Elder Yu Heng or Elder Tanlang in Meowan Springs, their legs would be broken. It definitely can't be a disciple of the sect. I agree. Then it's definitely the fox spirit gathering yang energy to nourish its yin energy. Tonight, I'll ask a few fellow disciples to go take a look and see if we can catch that little fox. That would count as making a contribution. We can't just let her go seduce our fellow disciples, right? That's true. But did you see who the fellow disciple she seduced yesterday was? The fog at the Meowan Springs was so dense. You have to walk right in front of them to see their facial features. I don't want to go. I'm too young. What if that fox spirit takes a fancy to me and drags me into dual cultivating with her? The junior disciple muttered. Suddenly, he saw that his senior brother's expression wasn't quite right. He stretched out his hand and waved at him. What's wrong? Why do you have this expression? The junior disciple finally felt a chill on his back. He faintly turned his head and saw Elder Yu Heng standing behind him with an unfathomable expression on his face and an extremely cold aura. He was so frightened that he let out an "Aya" and hurriedly said, Elder, please forgive me. You are here to recite scriptures, so recite scriptures. What are you talking about? Dual cultivation. Chu Wanning's face was gloomy. Stop talking about nonsense and study properly. If you talk nonsense again, I'll punish you. Finished speaking, he flicked his sleeves and left. Mo Ran also heard this conversation. He wanted to laugh but didn't dare to. His gaze followed Chu Wanning's back. He thought to himself, how could this serious person like me back? How could he be willing to be with me? His chest was filled with warmth and bittersweet pain. After the class, in the Green Book Hall, he couldn't help but hug Chu Wanning, who was tidying up the books. He held him in his arms and dotingly kissed him. Chu Wanning was angry. He took a bamboo scroll and hit him on the head. As he hit him, he said, it's all because of your good idea. In Meowan Springs, this is great. Look what have I become. Mo Ran held back his laughter. The tip of his nose rubbed against his ear. His voice was low and gentle as he asked knowingly, what have you become, Shizun? Chu Wanning didn't think that he would be so shameless. He couldn't help but widen his eyes. You. His dimples were about to turn into honey. Mo Ran kissed him again and laughed. Those Shidi are really ridiculous. Fox spirit? Of all, that, haha, taking yang to nourish yin. If you say that again, I'll kill you. Chu Wanning almost stuffed the bamboo scroll into his mouth. Mo Ran laughed. Oh. If I can choose the way to die, I'd say being seduced by the fox spirit of the Meowan Springs is not a bad way to go. Mo Wei. From then on, Chu Wanning was no longer willing to bathe in the Meowan Springs with Mo Ran. A few days later, Madame Wan called Mo Ran to come and see her. She pulled him and asked him something. Ran, during your travels outside a few years ago, did you see a strange girl in the Snow Valley? What girl? What do you mean by strange, auntie? She should be very pale. Her face didn't have much color. She liked to wear red clothes and always carried a basket in her arms. She would talk to passers-by in the snow valley. Moran laughed. Oh, Auntie is talking about Shwekin Jin, right? Madame Wang was surprised at first. Then she was happy. You know about Shwekin Jin? Such a strange monster. I thought you had never read about it before. I even wanted to describe it to you properly. I didn't expect. It was in Shizun's notes. I just happened to see it. Moran said. Why is Auntie asking about Shwekin Jin? It's like this. Master Nangong came to see me a few days ago for an examination. I took his pulse and felt that the burning yang qi in his body can be stabilized. It's just that the materials required are very rare. The hardest to find is the ice-shilling fish in Shwekin Jin's basket. Madame Wang sighed. Master Nangong and Meng Er are about the same age. Now that a tiger has fallen from the sky, I really can't bear it. I want to help if I can, but that Shwekin Jin is very rare and difficult to find. 20 years ago, someone met her in the snow valley. Other records of its sighting could be traced back further in the records of the Kunlun Taxu Palace 100 years ago. So, I wanted to ask you and try my luck. After Moran heard this, he was both happy and worried. He was happy because if Nangong Si's unstable yang qi could be cured, then he wouldn't have to worry about qi deviating anymore. Ye Wangzi and him had deep feelings for each other. Perhaps they could become a good couple. He was worried because he had been in the snow valley for more than a year, but he had never come across Shwekin Jin. He said to Madame Wang, after Su Xuanglin's matter is settled, I will personally go to the snow valley and search from the foot of the mountain to the peak. Maybe I can find some clues. After Moran finished speaking, he was happy and wanted to tell Nangong Si about it. Madame Wang called from behind, Hey, Ran Er, there's no need to hurry. I've already told Master Nangong. You don't have to. But Moran did not hear her at all, as he had already ran far away. He looked around and found that Nangong Si was standing next to the Nahi Bridge. Just as he was about to go over, he saw a person walking over from the other side of the bridge. Moran looked and saw that it was Ye Wangzi. His heart moved. He did not call out to Nangong Si. Instead, he stood in the distance and watched over them. Ye Wangzi was still very handsome. There weren't too many feminine features on her face. The cultivation method she practices and the teachings she received made it so that there was little difference between her looks and that of a normal male. In fact, in these past few years, if not for the fact that she still had a secret love for Nangong Si in her heart, she might have already forgotten that she was a woman. Nangong Si saw her and lightly coughed. Then his gaze turned to the boundless river again. Young master has called for me. Ah. Nangong Si's expression seemed to be a bit awkward. He crossed his fingers and rested them on the stone lion of the Nahi Bridge. After a long time, he finally answered, N. Is something the matter? No, no. Nangong Si said. He did not dare to look at Ye Wangzi. His fingers stroked the curled mane of the stone lion. It's just that, there's something that I want to give you. Ye Wangzi said blankly, What is it? Nangong Si lowered his head and slowly untied an ornament at his waist. He clumsily untied it for a long time before finally handing it to Ye Wangzi. Then he lightly coughed and stammeringly said, Thank you for all these years. Forget it, I don't know how to say it. I don't have any valuable ornaments right now. I can only give this to you. It has been with me for many years. It's not the best jade, but... He did not say anything else. Her eyelids drooped, her face somewhat red. He did not dare to look at Ye Wangzi. A long while passed, and seeing that there was no response from Ye Wangzi, he suddenly felt very dejected. It was rather abrupt and also very embarrassing. He hesitated if he should take back the jade pendant with the phoenix totem on it from Ye Wangzi. He muttered, I know that this is not pretty. If you don't like it, then then just give it back to me. It's alright, I won't mind. Just wait until we revive the Rufeng sect, then I'll find you the best one. Ye Wangzi was stunned for a long time. Then, she smiled. In her clear and handsome eyes, there was a trace of feminine gentleness. The corners of her eyes also seemed to be dyed with a thin layer of rouge that had never been there before. Her calloused and scarred hand, which was not as slender and beautiful as that of a typical young lady of leisure, grasped the jade pendant. The wind blew and the bamboo leaves rustled. Ye Wangzi said, "This piece is enough." "Thank you, young master." Nangongxi's face turned even redder as he stuttered, "As long as you like it." "I also, sigh. I don't know what to say." Mo ran. As he was eavesdropping by the bamboo forest, he couldn't help but feel frustrated. He wanted to hold down Nangongxi's head and smash it against the stone lion. Did this person not know how to do anything else other than raising a few wolfhounds? How could he say, "I don't know what to say"? In this kind of situation. Out of nowhere, Nangongxi suddenly said, "Madame Wang told me that the unstable spiritual core in my body can be suppressed. Perhaps dual cultivation won't be required to resolve it?" Ye Wangzi was stunned, but seemed to have misunderstood. She softly nodded and lowered her eyelashes, not saying anything else. If there was no need for the dual cultivation method to cure him, then Nangongxi could be with anyone he chose. Perhaps she would no longer have a reason to shamelessly stay by his side. She also had her dignity. She did not want to beg Nangongxi to love her out of pity. Perhaps Nangongxi wanted to use this jade pendant to end things with her amicably, so that she could keep it as a memento in the future. You understand? You get what I meant, right? When Nangongxi heard this confirmation, he became happy but still stupidly said, then if you're willing, actually, you can call me like you used to when we were young." I think that would be pretty nice, sigh, sorry. I really don't know what to say, sigh. He sighed twice in a row. In the end, even he could not stand it anymore. He covered his eyes and sighed, "Heavens, what am I saying?" This time, it was Ye Wangzi's turn to be at a loss. She blankly raised her head. Suddenly, she seemed to understand something. Her eyes widened slightly, and then a thin trace of blush appeared on her face. The bamboo leaves on the Nahi bridge fluttered as her clothes swayed gently. The jade pendant was warm in her hands as the bright red tassels fluttered between her fingers. After a long while, Ye Wangzi hesitated. Probingly, she softly called out, "Asi." In an instant, not knowing if it was an illusion or not, Nangongxi actually felt that her voice, which had been distorted by the voice-changing spell to the point where it could no longer be restored, faintly had some softness, some gentleness carried by the blurry wind. He suddenly raised his head and looked at Ye Wangzi's face. The rosy clouds of the morning sun filled the sky like brocade, reflecting her eyebrows and eyes. She smiled. She still had the familiar handsome and dignified appearance, but there were fragments of light flashing in her slightly narrowed eyes. She could not hold it in. In the end, tears rolled down from her smiling face. Nangongxi looked at her, looked at this face, and a vague memory from his childhood came back to him. It was a little girl in green, slender, with rosy cheeks and long eyelashes. She had a very gentle and sweet appearance. At that time, Ye Wangzi had not yet been sent by Nangonglu to Dark City to practice the Heart Sutra. She had just been picked up by Su Xuanglin not long ago. She followed Nangongxi all day long and learned some basic spells with him. That time, in order to train them, Nangonglu had them test their skills in the simplest illusions of the Rufeng sect. The illusion was not difficult, but it was somewhat terrifying. There were ghosts who had died unjustly. They wandered around inside the illusory realm, their hair disheveled, and they let out faint whimpers. At first, Nangongxi did not plan to pay attention to Ye Wangzi. He only cared about himself. But then he realized that Ye Wangzi was not following him. The little girl just curled up in the temple of the illusion, not daring to move at all. He looked back at her and snorted. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly saw a hanged ghost floating behind her. It stretched out its bright red tongue to coil around her throat. Ah! When the little girl noticed it, it was too late. She was so scared that she could only scream, her body paralyzed. She could only hug the sword in her arms and turned her head. But nothing happened. When she timidly opened her eyes, she discovered that Nangongsi was standing in front of her. That hanged ghost had already been repelled by his sword and stuck by a lightning talisman spirit. Amidst the flickering sparks, he turned his head and lowered his eyes to look at her. He originally wanted to reprimand her, but that girl's expression was so pitiful. She was like a frightened cat with her round eyes wide open. She couldn't hold back her tears and they gushed out. Nangongsi was stunned. After a while, he said, Why are you so useless? You're even afraid of ghosts. That's a ghost. Ye Wangzi cried, If I'm not even afraid of ghosts, what should I be afraid of? Nangongsi. Why are you girls so useless? It's not as if I wanted to be useless. The beautiful little girl cried and cried. She felt so wrong that even her snot flowed down. Who wants to drag you down? I also want to help, but you left so fast. You didn't wait for me. I'm just afraid of ghosts. Nangongsi had no choice but to squat beside her. He didn't know how to coax people, so he just watched her cry. Ye Wangzi, who had yet to experience the hardships of Dark City, was very much like the most ordinary girl. Her tears kept falling down. Crying and crying until she choked. What are you looking at? I want to see when you're done crying. When you're done crying, let's go together. Who told you to be so weak? Nangongsi sighed. He raised his hand and flicked the little girl's white forehead. Follow me, I'll protect you. Rosy clouds rose and the world was bathed in golden radiance. Only now did Nangongsi suddenly realize that in the illusory realm that day, it was actually the only time in his life that he saw Ye Wangzi cry out of fear. Later, she became as tough as iron and as hard as ice, suppressing all her emotions under an amicable face. She suppressed herself to the utmost that not only Nangongsi, she herself even forgot what kind of person she was originally. She only remembered that she used to chase the back of the young master of the Rufeng sect in front of her. From a child to a teenager, until she became a young master and lost her beautiful face. In the end she turned out to be like this, not crying, not dragging him down and silently following him for 20 years. End chapter. Dumb Husky and his white cat Shizun. Chapter 198. Shizun's trip to Mount Huang. After 10 days of fasting, Nangongsi and Ye Wangzi was ready to set off for Mount Qiao. Due to Nao Beijan's injuries, the Fey Wolf's vitality was greatly damaged. Therefore, he could not carry his master on a long journey for the time being. This huge demon wolf transformed itself into a cub the size of a palm. It placed itself in Nangongsi's quiver and stuck its furry head out. Mo Ran sent the two of them to the entrance of the mountain. He stroked the mane of the handsome horse beside him and smiled. Mount Qiao is far away, and riding a sword is tiring. These 2 horses are for you. They grew up eating spirit herbs and can travel 1,000 miles in a day. Although they are not as powerful as Nao Beijan, they are still passable. Nangongsi thanked Mo Ran and mounted his horse with Ye Wangzi. He bowed his head and cupped his fist. Thank you, Mo Xiang. Mo Xiang, you don't have to send us off. We will meet again someday. And, be careful. He stood at the entrance of the mountain and watched as Nangongsi and Ye Wangzi's figures gradually disappeared into the distance. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly heard a crunching sound from the woods to his left. It sounded like a dead branch had broken off and fallen to the ground. Meow. Mo Ran narrowed his eyes slightly and muttered, a cat. Meanwhile, Yewangzi and Nangongsi rode side by side as they went down the mountain. They trod on a desolate path from the Shisheng Peak to Wuchang town. The sun shone through the mottled branches and leaves. With every step of the horse's hooves, the scattered light was trampled into specks of dust. Nangongsi looked sideways at Yewangzi. Just as he was about to say something, Nao Beijing, who had already snuggled into his quiver, popped its head out and revealed two snow-white front claws. Awoo, it howled twice. Nangongsi was startled. He suddenly pulled the reins and said, "Be careful." Just as he finished speaking, a torrential rain of needles shot towards them from all directions. Nangongsi and Yewangzi drew their swords at the same time. The two of them had trained together since childhood, so they had a tacit understanding of each other. They leaped into the air, one to the left and the other to the right. Nangongsi wielded his sword on the left, while Yewangzi wielded her sword on the right. After a series of clinking sounds, the poisoned pear blossom needles fell to the ground one after another. Immediately after, Yewangzi raised his hand and threw out a talisman. A barrier soared into the air and enveloped the two of them. Nangongsi called out sternly, "Who's there?" The sun was dim, but it was not blocked by the clouds. Instead, a person was standing on a slender branch. He was wearing a wide robe with long sleeves, and his beard and hair were flying in the wind. He stood against the light and looked down with a hateful expression. He was the older cousin of the former sect leader of Jiangdong Hall, Huang Xiaoyu. He stood on the branch like an immortal. He did not make a sound and only stared coldly at Yewangzi's face. Immediately after, rustling sounds came from the dense forest. More than 100 disciples of Jiangdong Hall walked out of the forest. Each of them had a bright red headband on their heads signifying that they were all elite disciples of Jiangdong Hall. Huang Xiaoyu stroked his beard and said, "Well, weren't the two of you getting too comfortable at Shisheng Peak? You hid there for 10 days and 10 nights before coming out. You really made this old man wait for a long time." Nangongsi was furious. "Huang Xiaoyu, why is it you again?" "So, what if it's me?" Huang Xiaoyu said coldly. "You are well aware of the enmity between Jiangdong Hall and Rufeng sect." Nangongsi gritted his teeth and said, "From Linyi to Sichuan, we defeated your sect 4 times. You still want to chase us? What enmity? Haven't you had enough yet? It was Su Xuanglin who revealed the truth, and it was your sister-in-law who killed your younger brother. Yet, you come after us to pick a fight again and again. Have you no shame? Shame? This old man thinks that the little young master is the one who really don't have shame." Huang Xiaoyu said gloomily, "It was clearly your Rufeng sect that caused my Jiangdong Hall to suffer a great loss and fall apart. Don't tell me you dare to flatly deny it." Yewangzi said, "Even if your excellency wants to seek revenge against the Rufeng sect, it should be done in a fair and honorable manner. What kind of deplorable actions are these? Shut up. When men speak, it's not up to a little girl like you to speak." Huang Xiaoyu flicked his sleeve. "Don't think that just because your bastard of a Yufa raised you as a man, you're now a real man. A little girl will always be a little girl. Women should be cooking in the kitchen. You're a woman. What qualifications do you have to come out and act arrogantly in front of this old man?" Nangongsi angrily said, "Huang Xiaoyu, be reasonable." "Very well, then this old man will reason with you and settle the account." As soon as Huang Xiaoyu finished speaking, he pointed at Nangongsi and sternly said, "Your father has no regard for honor and shame. He had an affair with a married woman and instigated that wicked woman to poison my younger brother to seize power and usurp the sect leadership. As for the one next to you," he fiercely pointed at Yewangzi again, "she has a bastard for a Yufu. Her Yufu spread my Jiangdong Hall's private affairs to the world, damaging my Jiangdong Hall's vast and noble reputation. Today this old man will personally lead our sect's outstanding talents to take your lowly lives as Jiangdong Hall's retribution and return justice to the world. He waved his hand and the 100 disciples who were eyeing them covetously immediately swarmed forward to attack. Unexpectedly, as soon as they rushed out of the forest, a burst of flame suddenly descended from the sky. It fiercely drew back the astral wind and threw the disciples a few feet away. Nangong Si was shocked. Mo Xiang. The person who came was indeed Mo Ran. He held a willow vine in his hand and stood on top of a tree facing Huang Xiaoyu. He coldly stared at the Jiangdong Hall group. Huang Xiaoyu didn't expect Mo Ran to appear. His expression instantly became very unsightly. After a long time, his lips moved and he slowly said, "Grandmaster Mo, how did you find the interest to come to the foot of the mountain to watch the show? Why don't we ask the senior Wang's disciples if they could just be good people and continue to hide in the forest, meowing like a cat?" Huang Xiaoyu's expression was very gloomy. His face was almost the same as his surname. He said in surprise, "What does the Grand Master mean? I should be the one asking Senior Huang this question." Mo Ran said, "In the boundary of the Shisheng Peak, you attacked guests of the Shisheng Peak sect. Does Senior Huang think that our mountain gate is too clean and tidy and felt compelled to spill some blood on its pristine ground? Since it's out of the mountain gate, it's not up to your sect to control it. I'm avenging my dead brother, so I don't need Grandmaster Mo to interfere." Mo Ran said, "Senior Huang is right. Personal grudges are not under the jurisdiction of Shisheng Peak after leaving the mountain gate." Huang Xiaoyu coldly snorted. "Then why won't the Grandmaster move out of the way?" But Mo Ran didn't move. Instead, it could be seen the Jianghui's scarlet bloody light grew even brighter and the willow leaves on its head were almost like strings of blood beads. He said, "But what if I want to control it myself?" "You." Huang Xiaoyu was very much aware of Mo Ran's strength, but he couldn't be reconciled if he didn't get his revenge. He had no choice but to threaten angrily, "Grandmaster Mo, do you want to make an enemy of Jiangdong Hall?" "Not at all. I'm just here to ensure that my honored guests leave the Sichuan region safely, so whether it's the Jiangdong Tang or the Jiangxi Hall who's stopping me from doing that, it'll be the same." Huang Xiaoyu narrowed his eyes. The hatred in his brown eyes could almost turn into a tangible fire, burning Mo Ran and the cypress tree he was standing on into ashes. "You insist on shielding these two offenders from the Rufeng sect. What offenders are you talking about?" Mo Ran asked coldly. "Let me ask Senior Huang, did Miss Ye and young Master Nangong participated in the Jiangdong Hall's incident? Did they plan the internal strife in Jiangdong Hall? Or did they expose the scandal of Jiangdong Hall?" Mo Ran looked sternly at Huang Xiaoyu. "Did they kill the former sect leader, or deliberately participate in the murder of your younger brother?" "So what?" Huang Xiaoyu angrily said, "The son must pay the father's debt. It's perfectly justified." "How is that perfectly justified?" Mo Ran asked indifferently. "Enough, I think there's no need to argue with Senior Huang. Let's exchange blows and let our weapons decide." Huang Xiaoyu was extremely furious. He angrily shouted, "Mo Weiyu! You're so unreasonable. Interesting, who's the unreasonable one here?" At this time, another voice came from the mountain path, the tone arrogant. Xuemeng slowly walked out of the forest with the long Cheng saber. The hilt was cold and sharp. When the sun shone on it, it was so dazzling that people could barely open their eyes when they look at it. "Shouting and arguing in front of my home and starting a massacre, why is Jiangdong Hall in Shisheng Peak? Are you looking for death?" If it was only Mo Ran, Huang Xiaoyu might not be able to defeat him. However, with their numbers, they might be able to escape from Mo Ran and take advantage of the situation to kill their enemy. But at this time, the young phoenix Xuemeng had stepped out. He was the Heaven's Chosen who won first place in the Lingshan Mountain Sword Conference. Who didn't know the ferocity of the long Cheng sword in his hand? The two brothers appeared in front of the mountain gate, wanting to protect the lives of Nangongxi and Yewangzi. Even if Huang Xiaoyu fought with his life on the line, he definitely wouldn't be able to find an opening. When Mo Ran saw Xuemeng came, his expression became serious. He said to Xuemeng, "Go back. I'll help you. This matter has nothing to do with the Shi Sheng Peak. I'm helping out of selfishness. Don't get involved." Mo Ran frowned. He wondered if his younger brother was that stupid not to realize things. Although Zhang Donghal's strength was no longer the same, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. They were still one of the 9 great sects of the upper cultivation world. Moreover, the niece of Zhang Dongtang's old hall master and the eldest martial brother of Wohuang Pavilion were cultivation partners. They were officially married. If Xuemeng came out to help, then the name of Shi Sheng Peak sect will be dragged into the situation and relationships between the 3 sects will be affected. He definitely couldn't allow that to happen, so Mo Ran said again, "Go back quickly." However, Xuemeng was a simple-minded person. He didn't understand the political implications of what he was about to do. On the contrary, he was angry that Mo Ran didn't seem to want his help. While they were in a deadlock, they suddenly saw dust flying in the distance. A snow-white horse arrived in the blink of an eye. The person on the horse's back was wearing snow-white clothes. She was extremely beautiful and carried a pipa on her back. It was a cultivator from Kunlun's Taxu Palace. "Urgent report. Urgent report." The female cultivator frowned. She spurred the horse forward and shouted in a clear voice. She didn't expect that after turning a corner in the dust, she would come upon such a tense scene at the foot of the mountain. She suddenly pulled on the reins. For a moment, she was stunned. She straddled the horse's back and blinked her eyes blankly. "Urgent. What's happening here?" Because the female cultivator from Kunlun Taxu Palace had suddenly arrived, Mo Ran and Huang Xiaoyu didn't have a chance to fight. Huang Xiaoyu was invited by Xue Zhenyang to Shi Sheng Peak. Yewangzi and Nangongxi were also both summoned back along with the rest. The cultivator from Taxu Palace stood in the loyalty hall. Her red lips opened and closed as she bowed. Then she announced, "Urgent report. We've found Su Xuanglin's whereabouts." As soon as she said this, Yewangzi's face suddenly changed. In an instant, all the blood was drained from her face. The female cultivator continued, "Our sect released more than 10,000 jade butterflies to track down Su Xuanglin's whereabouts. This morning, 2 of them finally returned. We found that there was a strange spell around Mount Huang. Palace Master guessed that Su Xuanglin should be hiding there. He specially ordered us to rush to all the major sects to urgently report this finding and discuss what to do next." Xue Zhenyang was both surprised and happy. "You found him just like that?" The lady cultivator replied, "We can't be sure. However, the jade butterflies reported that recently, the smell of blood has been faintly lingering around Mount Huang. It hasn't dissipated at all. That is already a strange phenomenon. It should be related." Xue Zhenyang stood up. "Good. Since we have a clue, let's not delay any longer. Speed is the most important thing in a battle. What does your palace master think?" The palace master and the sect leader have the same opinion. He also feels that there is no time to lose. We should go there as soon as possible to investigate. "That's great." Xue Zhenyang turned his head toward Huang Xiaoyu and said, "Huangdao Kang, why don't we go together? If this time we can catch the main culprit, Su Xuanglin, we can avenge your younger brother's death." Huang Xiaoyu's heart thumped. He was very clear that his chance of killing Su Xuanglin was very small. Moreover, the so-called revenge was just a pretense. How much could his younger brother's death actually have to do with these 2 juniors, Nangongxi and Yewangzi? Although he was announcing to the world that he was avenging his younger brother, he was actually scheming something else in his mind. It should be known that after the disaster, Zhang Donghal's strength had declined greatly. He had already heard of the ancestral treasures of the Rufeng sect. So, he planned to capture both Ye Wangzi and Nangongzi in one fell swoop and force them to spit out the location of their sect's ancestral treasures so he could get it for himself. Huang Xiaoyu suddenly clenched his fists under the sleeves of his robes. After weighing the pros and cons for a long time, he squeezed out a yellow-brown smile that resembled a wrinkled orange. He said, "We still don't know whether the one on Mount Huang is really Su Xuanglin or not. Moreover, Zhang Donghal has already formed a grudge with the Rufeng sect. This is not a personal grudge, but a major matter that concerns the reputation of the sect. We must settle this properly." "That's right," Xue Zhenyang said, "then we'll look for Su Xuanglin to avenge our personal grudge first and then we'll look for ways to settle the grudges between the sects." Sect leader Xue's words are interesting. The Rufeng sect is now a pile of scorched earth. How could this account be settled? I'm not sure about that. But here's a question that Huangdao Kang have to answer himself, Xue Zhenyang said with a smile. Why are you in such a hurry to eliminate these two juniors when the Rufeng sect was already in ruins? You. Huang Xiaoyu calmly flicked his sleeve and rebuked, "This is a personal matter of mine." Xue Meng said with a smile, "Just now you said it was a major matter that concerns the sect's reputation and now you're declaring that it's a personal matter. Zhang Donghal is one of the 9 great sects in the upper cultivation world. How can you act so thoughtlessly like this?" Huang Xiaoyu knew he was in the wrong, but he didn't know how to defend himself, so he simply remained silent. He glared fiercely at Xue Zhenyang. With a wave of his sleeve, he led the group of Zhang Donghal disciples out of Shisheng Peak's gate. They took the lead and flew on their swords towards Mount Huang. Ye Wangzi was extremely apologetic as she turned to Xue Zhenyang and said, "Sect leader Xue, I'm really sorry. Even if the nestling falls into the net, the hunter won't kill it." Watching the people from Zhang Donghal leave, the smile on Xue Zhenjiang's face slowly disappeared. His gaze became cold as he said, "It's Zhang Donghal who has gone too far." He looked at the sky outside the main hall. The space between his eyebrows was very low, and there was a faint crease in the middle. After a long time, he sighed and said, "Let's go. We're going to Mount Huang." The road to Mount Huang was long, so everyone chose to fly on their swords. When they arrived at Mount Huang, there was already a large group of cultivators at the foot of the mountain. The rest of the 9 great cultivation sects had all arrived. Blurry faces came and went, bustling about like a school of carps crossing the river. However, no one knew what they were busy with. Chu Wanning was one of the very first to stop his flight sword technique. When he came down, his steps were slightly unsteady and his face was very pale. Fortunately, his face was originally very fair and was usually devoid of any color. Other people couldn't see anything strange, but Mo Ran noticed it. He walked over. While no one was paying attention, he lightly rubbed the back of Chu Wanning's hand. "Shizun, you flew very well." Mo Ran smiled and said, "Really?" Chu Wanning coughed lightly and turned his gaze away. Looking up, there was indeed a layer of miasma and evil chi that could be seen with the naked eye at the top of Mount Huang. The other 8 sect leaders had already arrived. They were standing at the very front of the foot of the mountain, in front of a barrier that reached the sky. They raised their hands and poured their spiritual energy into it. Xue Zhenyang also immediately rushed over to help. The people from Shisheng Peak arrived one after another. After a while, Xue Meng also arrived. He steadily landed beside the 2 people. When he saw the situation in front of him, he immediately frowned and said, "What are they doing? Why aren't they going up the mountain?" When Mo Ran saw him come, he explained to him, "It's not that they don't want to go up, but that they can't go up." Xue Meng was confused. "Why?" Chu Wanning replied, "Mount Huang is one of the 4 great evil mountains in the cultivation world. This mountain is very strange and it is not easy to break in. Xuemeng was a little surprised. I only knew of the 4 great holy mountains. So, there's also 4 great evil mountains. Which 4 are they? Chu Wanning said, Mount Qiao, Mount Xia. Xuemeng was stunned, a fake mountain. Black tortoise armor. Oh. Xuemeng blushed, yes. Mount Liao, and this one in front of us, Mount Huang. Chu Wanning paused and then said, this is the bloody past of the cultivation world. Nowadays, it's rarely mentioned. Only by reading some particularly books can you possibly read about the 4 great evil mountains. Then why are there such things as evil mountains? Chu Wanning didn't answer directly. Instead, he asked Xuemeng, do you still remember when the first leader of the Rufeng sect subdued the evil Jiao dragon? Yes. Xuemeng said, there was an evil Jiao dragon in the East Sea. The first sect leader of Rufeng sect defeated the evil Jiao dragon and sealed it in their golden drum pagoda. Later, he formed a blood contract with the Jiao dragon so it could be used by him. After the first sect leader of the Rufeng sect died, the corpse of the evil Jiao dragon turned into a hill, the dragon tendons became the mantle, the dragon blood became the river, the dragon bones became the mountain rocks and the dragon armor became the trees. The mountain spirit has been guarding the tombs of the Rufeng sect disciples for generations. Therefore, it's called the hero's tomb, also known as Mount Qiao. Chu Wanning nodded, yes, so Mount Qiao was formed by the Azure Dragon's evil spirit. You all know that the 4 auspicious beasts are the Azure Dragon, the Vermilion Bird, the White Tiger, and the Black Tortoise. But under these 4 auspicious beasts, evil descendants will also be born, stirring up trouble everywhere. Xuemeng slowly understood, so, the remaining mountains are like Mount Qiao, formed by the evil beast spirits. Yes. Xuemeng said, then Mount Huang is, the Vermilion Bird. He suddenly raised his head to look at the giant beast-like mountain shrouded in haze. Sure enough, he found that the middle of the mountain was tall and flat, like a phoenix with its neck outstretched. Chu Wanning said, that's right. In addition, the 4 great evil mountains each have their own evil techniques. For example, Mount Qiao only allows the descendants of the Rufeng sect to lead others into it. Trespassers will be dragged into the soil by the dragon tendons and would be buried alive. This Mount Huang is the same. But it's so strange. Xuemeng turned his head to look at the sect leaders who were casting their techniques. His father also went over to help. Mount Qiao is the Rufeng sect's mountain, this is known by everyone. Then what about Mount Huang? Wouldn't it be fine as long as we drag the descendant of the sect that subdued the Vermilion Bird evil spirit here? Mo Ran, who had been silent all this time, finally spoke, that person died unexpectedly not long ago. If she was still alive, we could have done that. Xuemeng was stunned, you know who it was? Yes. Mo Ran said indifferently, it was a woman and we all know her. End chapter.